Value Proposition Canvas, prepared for and presented at the 2014 Square One Entrepreneurship Training Program. Square One is a program of the Center for Emerging Technologies. CET is an affiliate of the Cortex Innovation Community. Square One is funded in part by the Missouri Technology Corporation.
So yeah, I kind of want to just build on what you guys started with last week, I guess would also be the, some of you have been working on your stuff for a year at this point, I'm sure. So really, last week you guys started here, and what's great about the business model canvas is, if you want to start a dry cleaner or a restaurant, that business model has really kind of been written for a long time, and it's pretty easy to kind of figure out a lot of the materials you need, but as you're kind of really trying to figure out what is it that I'm doing for the first time, it helps to kind of really be able to scenario play things out from there. But ultimately, what it really comes down to is these two things first. The other 7 parts don't matter if you don't have a customer. And I mean, Mark really started with this, and Chris kind of built on it. But if we don't have a customer and they're not really activated around why you're trying to do something, then we might as well pack up and go home at that point in time. So this is Clayton Christensen. He's a professor at the Harvard Business School, someone who I've read a lot. He coined this term that's been thrown around too much now called disruptive innovation. But he says, the graveyard of failed products and services is populated by products and services that people should have wanted, if only they could have been convinced that they wanted these things. And so to that end, Christensen's done a lot of consulting, done a lot of working, so I thought I'd share one, again, as we try to drive home to you the value of figuring out who your customer is and why that's important and why they care. So he gets a call from a major fast food company, and they say, we really feel like we can sell more milkshakes out there. The milkshake market isn't quite being tapped just yet, and so we've tried a lot of things. We've lowered the price, sales go up a little bit. We've tried advertising there's chocolate in it now, sales maybe bubble a little bit here and there. We've tried a lot of things, but we aren't really able to move the needle on this. And so they said, okay, well, why don't we have some preliminary discussions? And after a while, they did what anybody did. They went into the field. So they went into a restaurant, and they sat there, and they watched as people came and they went. And what time did people come in that were ordering milkshakes? Did they come in alone? Did they come in with other people? Did they buy it along with other products? Or did they buy it on its own? And after a while, they discovered something. People came in the morning, on their own, bought a milkshake, and they left. And so after watching this pattern emerge for a while, then they started cornering people out in the parking lot. Probably freaked a few people out, but hey, we're doing a study, we're trying to figure out, why are you buying this milkshake? And so what they found is that most of these people, they were on their way to work. And most of these people had tried everything before they landed on a milkshake. They'd tried cereal in the car, there was crumbs everywhere. They tried a bagel, that required some preparation. I don't have that kind of time. A donut, well, that makes me feel bad about myself. And a banana, well, I can annihilate a banana in about 8 seconds. And my commute is 25 minutes. So I landed on the milkshake. So here's the thing with the milkshake. Is it comes in a vessel, so it's contained in upon itself. It has a lot of protein in it and fat, and therefore it keeps me full throughout the day. And you know what? While I'm driving down the highway with one hand on the steering wheel, probably should have 2 on, I've got this other free hand right here. What am I doing with that hand? And a milkshake, as you guys know, this is the face you make when you drink a milkshake. And a milkshake takes work to eat and drink. And so it gives you another form of entertainment along the way. So the thing is, most people, there are very few people, and we probably don't like the people that don't like milkshakes, but the people that were buying milkshakes are people that are on their way to work because they're in a hurry, they're looking to stay full, and a variety of other reasons. Once they know this, okay, you're on your way to work, well, how about an Express Pass card? How about we discount it if you buy a 10-card pass now so that it's a little bit cheaper and you can come through the restaurant more often? Once you figure out who your customer is, it's a lot easier to target them, and it's a lot easier to get them to fall for your product or service. So again, you know, a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we're guilty of falling way too in love with our idea. And here's one that's extremely beloved. It is so beloved that there is nothing that is greater since sliced bread. The only problem with sliced bread is it existed for 15 years before anybody really caught on and bought it. And the thing is that the problem you are solving if you're moving down an innovative path, people may not realize they have that problem. And if they do, they may also already have a solution that's working well enough that are they going to bother switching to buy your product or service? And without the right positioning and understanding of who you're selling to and why, it's okay. They are very happy to keep on with their normal busy lives. Because you're all busy, people aren't just going to fall over themselves for your solution. So that's where, at the end of the day, the canvas drills down to what we call the value proposition canvas. And I don't want to get caught in the whole detail of it yet. But, so playing off on those details, what we need to figure out is, first, and Mark did a great job with this, by the way. You know, here's the thing that, you know, who are the, let's play out the milkshake thing for a second. Who are the working professionals of the world, you know? Probably starting in their mid-20s and moving up through, you know, mid-60s. These people have some things that make them alike and some that make them different. The new parents of the world have even less time than everybody else, trying to get their kids out the door too as they get on their way to work. But as we better understand who it is that we're selling this product to, the better we can figure out what is the messaging that makes them get off the highway, come to my restaurant, and get my product or service so that they can get on to work. And so that's where, again, and you'll see these questions all in the handouts. I believe you'll have two sets. One is the presentation, but then another set will have a series of questions on it too that will help you navigate each of these segments. So, and if any of it gets lost, we can always send you the links to it as well. But so as you're kind of looking at your customer, you know, what are the functional jobs that my customer is looking to do? Well, my customer is looking to eat a breakfast, okay? They're looking to eat a filling breakfast, one that hopefully they're not going to be starving during the middle of that 10:30 meeting, not paying attention anymore. But then you can also ask other questions like, what emotional jobs is my customer trying to do? Well, at least in comparison to a donut, maybe I can feel a little bit better about a milkshake if it's got some fruit in it, or if it's got, you know, 1% milk in it rather than whole milk in it. So then what you do is you turn around after you begin to kind of figure out what are some of these jobs my customer's looking to do, and then you ask, what are the products and services that I'm offering this customer? You know, can I turn around and think about my product in a way that's helping them eat a filling breakfast that hopefully they don't feel too bad about themselves? How can you, sure, if somebody, it's their own right, if they want to load it up with sprinkles and maraschino cherries and everything else, great, that's their business. But some people out there are going to really respond to that, especially in an increasingly health-conscious society. But the jobs that somebody is looking to do is not good enough. And again, Mark really went into this as well. Your customer has pains that they encounter on a daily basis. What does your customer find too costly? Are we talking about something that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, or requires substantial effort? Well, it takes me a lot of effort if I'm a new parent to get out the door in time and not be late for my 8:30 meeting. That's a pain that I need resolved. I need a breakfast sandwich that I can microwave so I can get out the door more efficient. I need something that I can pick up the store along the way. You know, what makes your customer feel bad? Well, as we said earlier, maybe based on a cereal or a bagel, what makes me mad is making a mess in my car that then I got to clean up. So now we're thinking about something that, okay, this breakfast product is a little more hygienic. Probably don't want to put hygienic on the marketing platform, but again, knowing what are the needs that this customer is looking to, what are the pains they have on the way to work, and what are the main difficulties and challenges your customer has. You know, I have busy mornings and I have trouble staying full. These are the problems I have. So we turn around and then we ask, okay, well, what kind of pain relievers can we apply to the situation? And so you say, sure, you know, you're in a rush on the way out the door. Let us help you by getting you in and out of the restaurant more efficiently. And the restaurant, they went on to create these express cards that helped people check out more quickly in the morning where they could purchase things at discount. Other pains too are that, again, reminding somebody that a milkshake is a great, easy way to eat in the car without having to worry about causing a mess. It's something that you can do with one hand. So then we get into something which I think is really interesting too, in terms of, I believe it's a question that Apple and other innovative companies ask, is how do we delight our customers? So I think one or two of these questions are actually really interesting in terms of what outcomes does your customer expect and what would go beyond their expectations. What if suddenly the fast food company that we probably so often don't associate with things that are all that healthy offered Greek yogurt? What if they offered fresh cut fruit? What if they offered things that not only offered you the opportunity to stay full, but hopefully also feel good about yourself? What could they do to provide positive social consequences where you can not only drink a milkshake, but walk into work and actually feel good about it? Be like, yeah, I had a milkshake on the way to work, but it's actually healthy for me, and it keeps me full all morning long, and you can have another donut while you're at it. So that is ultimately what we're really trying to do here, is how do we help people feel better about that and really try to solve their problems fundamentally. So I may have moved that through that. Yes, Jade. I'm sorry?
The last part you said, we really try to help them solve their problems with.
We're really trying to help them fundamentally solve their problems. So, it's a case where at this point in time, one of the guys that I admire a lot, and here's a quote, and then I'll run on things with him for a little bit more, but to the point of when your product is well positioned, we spend a lot of money, as Seth Godin puts it, trying to interrupt people with marketing, getting in their way and hoping that they're going to stop and ignore things. Let me tell you something. I am a professional ignorer. All those ads on the side of my Facebook feed, whatever. The things popping up atop along my Gmail, I don't even realize it's there. People are trying to get in front of you, and you're just not interested because you've got a busy life. So the better that you can know exactly how to market your product and realize it's okay to leave money on the table. People see opportunity to sell everybody a milkshake. Well, not everybody's buying one. Figure out who's buying one and make sure you figure out how to make it irresistible for them to want one along the way. It was kind of said a while ago, there used to be the made-for-TV logo all the time that was on products and whatnot. And a generation ago, my apologies. A generation ago, something worked where you said you built a product, you built it in secret, and you didn't really tell anybody about it, and then you put it on television, and you put it on there enough times where you could convince somebody that they wanted your product. If there's only 4 cereals in the cereal aisle, or a dozen, then it's easy to convince somebody to potentially buy your product. Now we've got a cereal aisle. Nobody's watching anymore. I've already got cereal. You're going to have to do better than just, and this one comes with a little extra. No, that doesn't help me enough. So I'm happy to take other questions at this point in time, but otherwise then I figured I'd maybe walk through another example and see where that kind of leaves us. Any questions? Okay. Bear with me for one moment. Okay, so let's see. So, we bring out the whiteboards, then it's getting serious. So one of the entrepreneurs that's been kind of wandering around the ecosystem, as we say, for a while now. This is going to look great on film, by the way. All right. Okay. One of the entrepreneurs that's been walking around the ecosystem for a while now, that we've had a chance to work with at my company, is a company called Cynic. And we tried making this video work, but it's so what Steve heard ultimately, he was working for an investment company out in Ohio and heard from a number of craft brewers. They said, here's the thing. I'm a smaller craft brewer, and everybody wants beer, and they want it in bottles. The problem is, it's really expensive for me to do. And that really begins to eat into my margin. And then not only is that not expensive, then I put it in the grocery store, and rather than making $7 or $8 on that 6-pack of mine, now I'm making 50 cents or 75 cents. I'm losing money on this because I can't produce in volume. Well, great. Well, what about those growlers that you can actually go into the brewery and fill up and whatnot? Well, that's great, but the problem is that once the person opens the top on that, the shelf life starts clicking immediately on that. So unless they're going to have a party and want to drink the whole thing, then they really can't, drink it as they go. And then Steve heard the same thing from craft beer drinkers the more he started asking around. I really like Civil Life down in South City, but if I don't want to go to the bar or to their brewery, I can't get their products because they don't bottle. So what he began to ask was, why can't I have beer on my counter like I dispense beer from a Keurig coffee machine? Or what about that really classy box of wine in my refrigerator that I drink from? Why isn't that an option? So what Steve really began to do was, and then Anheuser-Busch, they have a product too. Some of you may have seen it. It's called DraftMark. And that enables you to, again, buy a cartridge of Anheuser-Busch beer. And from there, you can go ahead and take it, and you can plug it into this machine, and you can dispense Budweiser, Busch, Bud Light, or whatever else they make available. But I like lots of beer, I want to drink Urban Chestnut beer, and I want to drink Avery, and I want to drink Civil Life. Why can I only put Anheuser-Busch products in here? So this is agnostic to any brewery that happened. And so after enough time, Steve developed some prototypes, had a Kickstarter campaign, raised $650,000, and he's kind of on his way. And so this will probably be too small for everybody in the back, so I didn't really think about this exercise. But so what I kind of wanted to talk about is that Steve kind of realized, let's think about this at least from the perspective of the beer drinker. What am I looking for? The jobs I'm looking to get done are, I want to have my craft beer anywhere, anytime. The other thing that I want, what's a social job that I'm looking to do? I'm looking to have friends over, and I'm looking to impress them. Like, hey, yeah, you want Civil Life? Oh, I've got it right here in my Cynic machine right here. So these are some of the things that Steve now begins to think about in terms of as he's marketing to someone in their home right there. What are some of the, let's see, let's hope that I did this in the right, it's right, yes. So what are some of the products and services that Steve needs to offer now in order to help get his beer anywhere, anytime? He needs to be able to deliver his beer cartridges nationwide, and he needs to have a countertop beer dispenser. Well, Steve has developed the countertop beer dispenser, and his service is to be able to, in the long run, go to his website and to be able to order, I want beer from Avery in Colorado. Perfect. And now I can be shipped to my door, and I can consume it as I please. Okay. So what are some of the pains that a craft beer drinker might face then, too? Well, I can go to the grocery store and I can get Budweiser or Urban Chestnut, but if I want Civil Life, one of the pains is, it takes too much time for me to drive to the brewery to get filled up to have something at my house. It really is kind of a pain because I'd like to be able to have some for the party I'm going to have later tonight. Another pain, the shelf life of growlers. Again, if I just want to have one at the house, it might result in me having, if I'm not having friends over, I might have so many I might make it into work a little late tomorrow morning. So what I really need is a way to kind of keep it fresh. And Cynic, through a bag that Steve has used like boxed wine, Steve can keep your beer fresh for 3 to 4 weeks that way. So now I can go home and have a pint without having to have 5 pints in order to finish my growler, or however many fits in there. So what are some of the pains I have? So let's say you're having, people over, big get-together at the house. After a while, the trash fills up. Well, when you don't have any bottles or cans to recycle because it's all being dispensed into cups, then that makes one less thing I got to do. I don't have to worry about taking out the recycles often during the party. And again, another pain reliever is fresh beer delivered right to my door. And, let's see, nope, that's a gain creator right there. So, again, kind of the idea is that none of this is right, but it's a way to, again, begin to visualize what it is that your customer, how they really think about things, and how, when you drill back up to customer and value proposition, how do you make sure that you're targeting people correctly? Because again, depending on what the product is, there could be a different value proposition depending on whether you're selling this to someone who's has the countertop beer dispenser at their home versus someone like a marketing agency would also be somebody that would typically have something like this, or some of the more innovative startups. Why do they want to have a beer dispenser in their shop as well? It can be an appeal to employees. You know, this is, hey, this is a more festive place to work. I don't want to delve too much deeper into this, but I also kind of want to just step back now and ask you guys if you have any questions at this point in time. Yes, Jade.
How did the two, how did the two illustrations vary? Because I see where.
Oh, I'm sorry. So how the two illustrations are supposed to, and you know what, maybe I should have pointed this out. So what we're doing here, and would have been helpful, this is us looking at the customer, and this is our value proposition right here. So the idea is, this is me looking at the person I'm trying to sell to, and now that I've looked at them, like, okay, this is where they're at. How do I make sure that I am where they am so this aligns much better with them? So that's kind of the idea, is bridging the gap between, if I know what they're thinking in theory, then that can help me better figure out, okay, you know what? My customers are only interested in craft beer from the St. Louis market. Perfect. We don't need any, we don't need nationwide delivery anymore. People only want St. Louis beer. Perfect. It's that easy. So, and so that's part of the thing is, this is all about creating assumptions and then going out and validating them. So, yeah, yes, right there.
Can you describe the difference between the game creators and the pain relievers?
Sure. So, and I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, but really kind of what the idea is that there are some things that create joy and some things that alleviate a burden. So driving to the brewery, that's a pain, I'm not suddenly delighted because I don't not have to go to the brewery, but it's like, you know what, I've got 30 extra minutes now. What can I do with that time instead? Versus a gain is something that kind of makes someone go, that's something I didn't expect right there. That kind of takes this thing to another level for me. So that's kind of how I would think about that instead. That's when you're potentially creating a value improvement on that in terms of how can I share this with my friends? That creates a social gain right there in terms of me being able to impress upon people, hey, I don't look it, but I'm hip. So yeah, and I'm talking about me. So yeah.
Is that similar to the fresh fruit in your shake to make it healthy?
Correct. I think that's absolutely a gain. Yes, that wouldn't be a pain right there. The gain is absolutely that now this is a much more positive choice to make. And so now it's not just that I'm full, there's an added benefit on top of that. Cool. Yeah.
So at this stage, are you considering market size as well? Or
So I think very much with some of Mark's statements, you should absolutely do this. But yes, so how I typically look at things is you want to delve into this, and then you want to go out and do market research on them. Because you can create some quick archetypes on people based on some assumptions of which some are probably not going to be true. But let's paint some pictures first. Because again, you saw how quickly I kind of did this. You sit down with a team or some friends, and you could quickly answer some questions about basic archetypes of people, and now you want to go out and do secondary research behind a desk, and then you really want to go to the market from there and really begin sharing your idea. And that's something where some of us have to approach this a little differently, but as, again, my hero Seth would say, you've got to get out there and you've got to share your idea because, and some people might have intellectual property concerns, but ultimately, so often, and there was a question earlier about, what if your brand is stolen or co-opted by as Xerox or something? I'll tell you what, from where you guys are, if your product your name gets stolen, that's probably because you are just hustling like crazy and you got bigger problems. Let your team of lawyers handle that at that point in time, because if the nation has stolen your name, you are rocking and rolling right now. But yeah, so I think absolutely we make some assumptions here and then you go to the market. And that's kind of how the cycle works, and you guys may get to the lean startup at some point. But this is about building some assumptions and then going to the market and measuring whether that gets validated and really comes back the right way. Yes?
So you place very little on general advertising. Is that kind of the main takeaway?
So what I think it is that if you know, here's the thing. I think advertising is great, but what's important is, let's go back to the milkshakes for a minute. I'm marketing my milkshakes to a very direct, specific channel now that way. And as opposed to the idea of banner ads, or if let me just put it up on the highway, and everybody that's passing by is going to want a milkshake. No, that's not it. It's figuring out where are the people that are the potential consumers of your product and going to them. Because you certainly need to create brand awareness, because people oftentimes aren't just going to bump into your product, but once they do, it's not having to hound them repeatedly. It's them going, that's something I really need in my life. And so it's placing much more time on developing the right customer and the right product just for the right people. So, yes, Claire.
I think until this is established, no matter what you advertised, it would fall flat.
You know, I think that really is kind of the idea. And the good news is, you know, at this point in time, again, except for maybe, you know, and Harry might be able to speak to this to a degree with some of the companies he works with, but I really think, you know, for an early stage consumer product or an IT company especially, you know, at this point in time, you don't have anything, and it's going to take so much work, you don't have to worry about somebody stealing it. You got to get out there and make sure that you're getting validated feedback coming back on that. And again, most large companies, you know, aren't going to take notice of you at this point in time because you're just a blip on the radar at this point. ML, how am I doing on time? Am I okay or? Okay, cool. Cool. Well, I'll be here. Francis, question?
I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the Cynic story on the advertising side. I mean, they were doing their Kickstarter, and I mean, I don't think you can tell them, like, I mean, they sort of blew up because they, you know, if you look at the market that they're trying to serve with their product, it's guys like Chris LeBeau. Chris reads a lot of stuff, and they were featured on Mashable, which is one of the online blogs that covers a lot of
Right.
consumer products kind of stuff.
And the thing too is that if your product is, and again, so quick example if I have the time. So Seth Godin also wrote this book called Purple Cow. You should read it. It's awesome. But so he says in this TED Talk he gave a while ago, he goes, how many times have you been driving down the street and you see a cow on the side of the road and you stop the car and you get out and go, oh, look, a cow. How about that? Never happens, right? But if you're driving down the street and there's a purple cow right there, you slam on the brakes and you go, what is going on here? And the thing about the Cynic beer dispenser is that on both ends of Steve, the beer drinkers and the brewers, when they saw it, they went, oh my God. And they shared it with everybody, with all their friends, because they said, this is really cool. And at that point, what's way better than me selling my product is you selling my product for me, because your friends believe you. Who knows who the heck I am? And so that's part of the thing. Yeah, Steve got some good press. He did a lot of work behind the scenes. But really, again, by solving a market need and in a way that people wanted it so badly, they went out and did all the work for him at that point. He's calling breweries that weren't on his list like, hey, we just had a meeting about you. And they're like, what? Like, I mean, they're calling people in California and they're talking about them because that's how novel the product was. That's how many pains and gains that it kind of ultimately addressed.
We have 7, Ian Kern with Manifest Digital coming in to talk about different types of marketing vehicles available.
Right.
What would be best for you?
Yeah.
So we have someone coming in week 7 that can probably address a lot of those questions.
Cool. Guess that's about it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.